Hello, welcome back to High Class. My name is Leshan, and this video is a continuation of the poetry section. It is in KCSE English Paper 2, question number 3. And in the first video, I talked about that for you to score good marks under this section, you must understand two things clearly. Number one, the elements that make up a poem. I said that these elements are important because they translate into the questions that I usually set under this section. Number two was, how do you write your answers fully and correctly for you to score full marks per question? So in the first video, we looked at the first part. We looked at these elements, these areas that are tested under poetry. We briefly defined each of the elements. So if you don't check the video out, please visit our channel on YouTube at the High Class. The handle is at the High Class. Go to playlist of paper 2, watch the video, understand the definition of these elements first. Now when you watch this video, where we're going to talk about the second part of how do you write your answers fully. So I've sampled 3 poems here: Mother to Son, Still I Rise, and Back Home. We're going to use these to draw our illustrations from. Now, starting with the first element, that is the title, we said that the title is simply the heading of the poem. Okay, for our case, we have Mother to Son, is the first title, Still I Rise. Then we have Back Home. These are the titles that we have. And in examination, they may give you the poem, okay, or they may ask you to supply an appropriate title. Okay, what do you do? If you're asked to supply a title for a poem, you read the poem from the first stanza to the last stanza. Number 2, identify the subject matter. Identify what the poem is talking about. What are the events in the poem from the first stanza to the last stanza? That forms the subject matter. Now, summarize that subject matter into 1 word, 2 words, or a maximum of 3 words only, and that forms your title. That is how you get a suitable title for a poem. What do? You read the poem from the first stanza to the last stanza. Number 2, identify the subject matter, what the poem is about. What are the events happening in the poem? And after you get the events, what do? You summarize those events into at least 1 word, 2 words, or a maximum of 3 words, and that forms your title. Okay, but for our case, we have Mother to Son, Still I Rise, and Back Home. Number 2, the poet. We said that the poet is simply the writer, the author of the poem. The person who writes the poem is called a poet. For our case, Mother to Son was written by Langston Hughes, Still I Rise was written by Maya Angelou, and Back Home was written by Juani Mwaikusa. That one is a Tanzanian poet. Okay, so that is the poet. It's as simple as that. Number 3, the persona. We say that the persona, this is the voice speaking in the poem. It's the speaker in the poem. Okay, so in the first poem, Mother to Son, the persona is an experienced mother. In this question, we say that you must give an answer with its illustration. If you just say the mother and you stop there, you'll get a 1 mark or even a 0. So you have to illustrate what shows that this persona is a mother. So we would say the persona is an experienced mother. Our evidence is the title states Mother to Son. You score. Or get any other line from the poem, e.g., well, son, I'll tell you, life of me ain't be no crystal stair. Just pick a line from the poem that illustrates whatever you're talking about, an answer and an illustration. Now, for Still I Rise, who is the persona? The persona is an oppressed woman. An oppressed woman. Now, what shows that the persona is an oppressed woman? In the poem, there's a line that talks about, you may trod me in the very dirt. You may trod me in the very dirt. Of course, there's this unnamed oppressor that is trying to oppress this woman. So the persona is an oppressed woman. Then pick any line in the poem that shows the persona is that woman, or the oppressed woman, and put it there. Then you'll score your full marks. And lastly, in Back Home, the persona is a grandchild. The persona is a grandchild. What shows? There's a line in the poem that talks about grandpa sitting on a stool. Grandpa sitting on a stool. So you ask yourself, who calls the other person grandpa? Of course, it's a grandchild. So the persona is a grandchild. Our evidence is the line that states grandpa sitting on a stool. And that is it. Okay, so for this question about the persona, make sure you give an answer and you give an illustration. Illustration is, go back to the poem, pick any line that tells you who the person is. Okay, who the persona is, of course, in this case. Number 4, about, or the subject matter. We define the subject matter as what is happening in the poem. Okay, what is the poem simply talking about? That is the subject matter. You read the poem from the first stanza to the last stanza, then try and see those events that are happening there. So this question usually asks, briefly describe what is happening in the poem. Or they can simply ask you directly that, what is the subject matter of the poem? Okay, what do? Read the poem from the first stanza to the last stanza. Look at the events that are happening in the poem. What is happening in stanza 1, in stanza 2, 3, and 4. Then try and summarize that information into at least 3 lines. At least 3 lines, a maximum of 5 lines. You should not go past 5 lines, okay? So read the poem, look at the events that are happening from stanza 1 to the last stanza, then summarize that into at least 4 lines. That forms your subject matter, okay? Now, for the first poem, Mother to Son, I would say, the poem is about a mother who uses things like staircase to tell her son how life has been difficult, but in it all, she presses on. She has pressed on. This is to encourage the son to prepare for the realities of life, and that he should not give up. Okay, so that is the subject matter. Whatever is happening in the poem, there's a mother who is advising the son. So to summarize all that information, I would say the poem it's about a mother who uses things like staircase to tell her son how life has been difficult, but in it all, she pressed on. This is to encourage the son to prepare for the realities of life and not to give up in case of challenges. That is what the poem is talking about. You'd score around 3 marks. I think 3 marks. 3 marks for this question. Now, for the second poem, that is Still I Rise. What would I say? The poem is about overcoming historical oppression and racism. Okay, the persona undergoes a series of injustices, insults, and threats, but she asserts that these won't break her, that like air, she will rise again. Okay, that is the subject matter of what is it? Still I Rise. Okay, it's about overcoming historical oppression and racism. The persona undergoes a series of injustices, insults, and threats, but she asserts that these would not won't break her. That like air, she'll rise again. And lastly, the subject matter of this Back Home poem. The poem describes a grandchild or deserted. The grandpa passed away, leading to a sense of regret or the effects that come with the passage of time. Full stop. Okay, how did I get these lines or this subject matter? I read the poems from the first line to the last line. I looked at the main events that are happening in the poem, and I tried to summarize those events into a minimum of 3, but a maximum of around 4 to 5 lines. That forms the subject matter, what the poem is about. Okay. Now, next, the styles or poetic devices. We talked about the styles. These are the tools that the poet uses to deliver the message, of course. And there are so many, and we talked about there are 2. You can classify them into 2. The figurative language. Figurative language, these ones include the irony, the simile, the metaphors, the imagery, things like that. And we have the sound patterns that include things like the alliteration, consonants, those ones, assonance, and rhyme, those ones, okay? So the trick is give an answer with the evidence, okay? The illustration, if you say a simile, go back to the poem, find that simile and put it there, okay? If you say irony, put the irony there, the style, then put the illustration there for you to score the full marks per question, okay? So I'll give samples from these poems. For instance, we have similes in Still I Rise. Similes in Still I Rise. Someone says they are like dust, I'll rise. Someone says like moons. There's someone she compares herself to like the sun, and many others. So those are examples of similes. So I just picked similes as style, then give the illustration. Pick any instance where there is simile in the poem, put it there in your answer sheet, and you'll have to score the full mark. So simile, like dust, I'll rise, like moons, like the sun, and many others. Now in back home, we have imagery, smoke rising from the heart. That's visual imagery, yeah? Visual imagery. If you know the specific type of imagery, well, it's good to say visual imagery, then give illustration. If you don't know, just to play safe, just say imagery, then I give the illustration. So there's a line in the poem that talks about smoke rising from the hearts. That is visual imagery. You can see as the smoke comes out of the hearts. Then lastly, in Mother to Son, we have this style called a dialect. Dialect is also a style whereby the poet uses the exact words of the to imitate the life of a black American. Things like ice bean, climbing, ice bean. If you check the poem, you'll see whatever I'm talking about. Ice bean, climbing, turning corners, ain't been no crystal star. When you just read this poem, definitely you think about this is a black American person talking. So with that dialect, as a style. Okay, and when if you look at the sound patterns, we can get some like alteration in back home. In back home, there's a line in there that talks about hearts down in dry heaps of dilapidation. Alteration, that is hearts down in dry heaps of dilapidation. Alteration is the repetition of the same consonant sound at the beginning of words that are in close proximity in a line. Okay, so we have D in down, D in dry, and D in dilapidation. Okay, so we have that D, that is alteration. You just say alteration, you score 1 mark for identification, and you pick the line, put it there, and underline the exact sound pattern that we are talking about. Now, sometimes in this question, they might ask you and give the effectiveness. Okay, identify two stylistic deviances and give the effectiveness. Okay, what do? Now you say what the poem has what the style has contributed towards the meaning of the poem. For instance, you can have a simile, give illustration of a simile, then what is the simile showing? Now about the effectiveness, these styles can show, I think, 3 things. Most of the times, I think 3 things. Number 1, they can reveal themes. Number 2, they can reveal character traits. Number 3, they can show mood. Okay, the styles can reveal themes, can reveal character traits, and they can reveal the mood in the poem. So you just have to find which one, what am I getting, what message am I getting from the stylistic device. For instance, in this back home, the style of alteration, so I would say alteration, evidence, I copy the line, hearts down in dry heaps of dilapidation, then I underline the DDD, that is identification. The effectiveness, through this, what do I get from this alteration? I would say it makes the poem rhythmic. It makes the poem rhythmic, of course, that musical pattern. Or I would say it emphasizes the message of emptiness. Okay, hearts down in dry heaps of dilapidation. So it enhances this meaning of emptiness or nothingness. When the grandchild visited their grandpa's home, there was nothing. Everyone was left, and there was just grass, overgrown grass all over the compound. Okay, so be very keen. If they ask you a style and the effectiveness, the marks, for one style, you have 3 marks. So you must show 3 things. 1, style. 2, evidence. 3, the effectiveness. What has it done? Okay, that's how we score full marks under styles. Number 6, we have themes. Now, we say that the themes are the main message. These are the main messages that the poet is trying to communicate, the message that relates to human life and experiences. So in Till I Rise, we can find themes like resilience, triumph over adversity, and many others. But the trick is also an answer and the illustration. Do not just give a theme like or let's say resilience, and you stop it there. That one you won't score, or you score, let's say, half a mark, which is not what we want. So in themes, make sure you identify the theme and give the illustration.